Hi, welcome back to the Trial by Jennifer podcast series. My name is Jennifer Butterfield, your host, and today I have Christie Leslie, who is the co-founder of the Financial Workout, and I'm really excited to have her on the show. We got connected via Instagram, and so welcome, Christie. I'm so glad to have you on. Tell the audience a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Thank you, Jen. Yeah, it's amazing to be on here. This is my very first podcast guest appearance, so I'm super excited about that. Basically, I am 25 years old, living in the sunny state of Florida, recently married, and I've been working in the financial services industry for about 6 years now.
Cool. I love it. And you are a certified financial planner or CPA.
No, I am not. I am pursuing my CIA exam, actually. This is
Cool.
something new that I'm doing just in my professional field.
Mhm.
CIA stands for Certified Internal Auditor. So
Yay.
I got a degree in accounting at the University of South Florida. And then I was in public accounting for 3 years and made the switch over to internal audit just because I was
Cool.
getting burnt out working 60, 70-hour weeks. It was definitely a grind in public accounting. But
Mhm.
then like I said, made the switch over and am really loving what I'm doing now.
That is awesome. I totally know what you mean. The corporate world can be extremely taxing at times. Like I worked in tax law for several years as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
So I know that's not audit side, but yeah, it definitely were long hours,
Mm-hmm.
and very complex work, very detail oriented. So congratulations on your marriage and on the exam that you're studying for. I hope that
Thank you.
you pass with flying colors. I know your company is going to just continue to be fortunate to have you as a member of their team. So,
Thank you so much. And congrats on your recent engagement.
thank you. Yeah. I'm hoping to do a little bit of a series on wedding planning and just
Mm-hmm.
the cost of all of that. I think that'll be
Oh my
interesting. And
goodness.
so maybe I can add some of your input if since you've been married and I think that'll be an interesting bit. But I'm curious. I ask all of my guests this question. I'm always wondering where people are coming from, and so I'm curious. What was the conversation around personal finance like in your home growing up?
Oh, yeah, good question. So, personal finance in my home growing up, we talked about it casually. My dad was always super into investing, and I loved numbers and money ever since I could even think of from all the way back when I was growing up. So, the biggest thing that I think my parents instilled in me was just the importance of saving.
Mhm.
And I think that is what really helped me be able to kind of purchase my first home at 22 years old and just kind of set myself up early on in my career so that I could be secure in my finances.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So and I guess this is kind of going more into that question. Do you think that you had like a good head on your shoulders when it came to that, like as you got your first job? And I mean, I know so much of our culture, and this working in finance as well, but like I think is centered around this idea of like instant gratification or like impulse buying and things like that. And so I'm curious, when people kind of illustrate that they come from a strong grasp on financial security and implementing those habits that can lead to long-term wealth. Has that ever been something you've struggled with, or is that something that you have felt like you had a lot of education around, and so you developed healthy financial habits?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that I've always been pretty conservative with my money. But that's not to say that I haven't splurged here and there. I
Yeah.
do love like luxury goods and stuff like that. But I think it's all about just like not trying to impress other people. You can really get caught up in like a spending trap where you're spending for other people instead of yourself. And
Mhm.
especially with wedding planning, like that's where I think it
Yeah.
really hit me, where it's like you're always thinking about, oh, what are my guests going to be wanting? Oh, what food are my guests going to want? What type of activities are my guests going to want to do? You know, people are flying in all over for your big day, but at the end of it, it's like you actually have to take a step back and think, wait, what do I want? This
I
is
want.
my day.
Yeah, totally. No, and I've had a couple of my girlfriends say, "Well, have you started planning yet?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I started putting together the guest list, like over 200 people. And it's like, they're like, "What do you want?" And so I think that translates into every facet of our life. I know
Mm-hmm.
you probably have experienced firsthand through working with clients and friends that like lifestyle creep is a very real thing. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it is bred from, our own insecurities and also like coupled with media, right? That it's like we're constantly being fed these messages to consume and to, kind of peacock with the
Mm-hmm.
opposite sex, even the same sex, I would
Yep.
say even more so with that. So um, I feel really excited that we're going to be focusing on financial goal setting. It's the new year, 2024. This is going to be our year, and
Yes.
can you share a little bit about why financial goal setting is important and what exactly is it?
Yeah. So, by the way, your ring is absolutely stunning.
Thank you.
I keep
Thank
staring at it as you're talking.
thank
All
you.
right. So, yeah, new year, financial goal setting. That should be your number one priority this year. No one knows literally what is going to happen this year with the election year. I mean, take a look back at the last election year, what all happened. It was just crazy with the state of the economy and COVID and everything. So, like I said, I work for a financial services firm, and there's been talks throughout the company. Like, we don't know, obviously, no one knows what's going to happen, but potentially a
Right.
recession, potentially something else. Like, I would say your number one financial goal should be saving as of
Mhm,
right now for this year.
mhm,
But
mhm,
financial goal setting is really just all about setting yourself up for financial security so that you can be secure in your finances in the future.
mhm. Yeah, absolutely. You raised some really, really good points. It does feel like at least here in the United States, that
Mm-hmm.
the landscape, political climate, and socioeconomic culture, it seems that there's a lot of uncertainty. So I'm curious. What are some of the common financial goals that people set? And I know being realistic when setting goals is really important. And so can you talk a little bit about how somebody might be able to determine what is a realistic financial goal when they're
Mm-hmm.
setting it?
Definitely. So, your financial goals should first off be measurable. So, what does that mean? Instead of saying, for example, I want to save money this year, try to
Mm-hmm.
set an actual number associated with that goal so that you can measure it. So, instead of saying, I just want to save, try saying, I want to save $5,000 this year, something
Mm-hmm.
like that. The second aspect of every good financial goal is that it has an actual end date. So,
Mm-hmm.
again, I want to save $5,000 this year. Great. You're kind of saying it already, like this year, that means like 2024. But I would
Right.
even get more specific and say by December 31st, 2024, I want to have X amount of money in my savings account, something like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm. I love that. When I was in my undergraduate studies, I did business. So we talked a lot about what are known as SMART goals: specific,
Exactly.
measurable, attainable, realistic, time oriented. And
Mm-hmm.
it sounds exactly like what you're sharing. And so that's good. It's on track. I'm curious, there's so much. I think that, and you've probably been exposed to it too, like being in the personal finance sphere of influence. I think there's like a lot of people talking that are millennials, Gen Z, that are saying, the purchasing power of what we experience today is not what it was back then, and I think that with inflation rising and like wage stagnation and things like that, like it can feel kind of tight, but I think that there are definitely strategies for effective financial goal setting and tracking that progress. How often should people be tracking it? What are some effective strategies for, really living beneath the means, or at least being able to um, not feel stuck, right? I
Mhm.
think that's what a lot of people, at least the general sentiment I've been kind of taking in, is people feel stuck. They feel
Yeah.
trapped in this cycle. And so I'm curious, what strategies do you suggest people could employ to really carve away money for savings?
Yeah, definitely. So have you ever heard of a high yield savings account?
Oh yeah, I'm
Okay.
all about it. I monitor them all the time. I'm like, which one's the best one to go with? Go ahead. Tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are with this.
Okay, great. So, yeah, I think high yield savings accounts, they're also referred to as HYSAs, are amazing right now just due to the current interest rate environment. Rates are yielding higher than they ever have in the history of time. So, now is a really great time for you to earn more money on your savings account risk
Mm-hmm.
free. So
Mm-hmm.
traditional savings accounts, you'll earn like 0.01 to 0.03% of interest.
Right.
When you put your money into a high yield savings account, and by the way, I just found out that there is a such thing as a high yield checking account. So when you put your money into these type of higher yield accounts, you're
Mm-hmm.
earning a lot more interest on your money. So that is
Mm-hmm.
the first thing I would say right now. And I would tell everyone to really take advantage of that interest currently because the rates are actually starting to come down. The Fed is starting to lower rates. And I think that going through 2024, we're going to see the Fed lower rates even more than they already are. So that would be my
Mm-hmm.
number one thing. My second
Yeah,
thing,
absolutely.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
So my second thing would be to really cut up your credit card if it's only getting you in debt. I think that credit cards are a great tool if you know how to properly use them because you can get points and cash back and that right there is free money if you will. But if you have a not so good relationship with your credit card or with racking up debt, then you can really, really like that could be detrimental to your financial health because you could just get yourself in a hole and I can't even imagine how hard that is to just kind of climb out of.
Mm-hmm.
I recently made a TikTok account. I don't know if you're on TikTok, Jen, but I am just like scrolling through and seeing all these young women in their 20s talking about how they're drowning and they can't even make their like they can't meet
Pay their
their
thing and yeah.
sorry they can't really get it together as far as their living paycheck to paycheck. That's what I was trying to say. So
Mhm.
but then you see that they have their nails done, they have their hair done, their lashes done. It's like that's interesting. You're saying that it's really hard for you to pay all of your bills, but yet you have the newest iPhone, your nails done, all this stuff.
Right.
It's really about just taking stock of your expenses and
Mhm.
actually seeing and getting a good understanding of where your money is actually going.
Definitely. Yeah, I first of all, those are great strategies. I would love to chat with you a little bit more about, brick and mortar versus like mostly virtual for high yield savings accounts because I know the interest rates vary depending on
Mm-hmm.
whether they've got real estate in the
Mm-hmm.
game or yeah, just like the terms of some of them. But I think that I did not know there was a high yield checking account. Wow, that's fantastic. Hopefully, maybe can we link a link to more information about that in the podcast description? I totally the beauty industrial complex, as I like to call it, is very alarming. You know, there's this especially for women, this message that like, oh, you worked so hard, take care of yourself. You know, you earned it. And I think the big pitfall with credit and debt specifically is this idea of like not understanding how it works, number one, not necessarily understanding compound interest. And then also this idea of like, I can only put the expenses that I already have carved out of my budget on that. You know,
Mhm.
it's like when I start thinking, oh, I can buy a bunch of clothes at Zara because
Mhm.
I want them and I have the credit limit, right? Just
Mhm.
because I can doesn't mean that I should. And so that's a really, really great point. And I completely agree. I think that's a very important strategy to consider when it comes to saving. Can you talk a little bit, and maybe this is a good pivot for, you know, the common challenges and mistakes that you see people making when it comes to setting financial goals and how can they overcome those?
Yeah, really great question. So, a challenge that I see is people just not knowing what they're spending their money on. And that
Mhm.
is number one that we teach our clients. So we do some group as well as one-on-one coaching over at the Financial Workout. And basically, we have people come to us and they're kind of stuck. They need help. They don't know how to kind of get out of the hole that they have put themselves in. And so
Right.
we try to help coach them and set them up with a budget or different type of strategies that they can use to really help themselves out and to in the long run achieve financial security. So um, budgeting, obviously, great tool for people to use. However, a lot of people don't like that word. They don't like trying to stick to a budget. So instead of
Mhm.
budgeting, I try to flip it and I call it expense analysis. So this is where we look through your monthly expenses and try to just get a better visual of where your money's going. I
Mhm.
recommend everyone do this if you haven't done this already this year. It's a really great way to kind of kickstart your year to see where you need to make some changes or where you're doing really well. You might think you're not doing well, but then once you look at the numbers, you say, "Oh, I am actually doing really well." So, yeah, you'll never really know where you're at unless you're actually running the numbers. And a lot of
Mhm.
people don't really know where to begin with that. So that's where we kind of come in and help out. But yeah, just kind of seeing exactly where your money's going, what's coming in versus what's actually going out, and then hopefully what you're saving and investing for the future as well.
Mhm. I'm curious, as far as like a percentage of somebody's income,
Mhm.
what would you recommend, like, or what do you use for like that chunk that needs to go towards saving and investing? Like, what would you encourage anybody listening to kind of set as like a goal? Because I think percentage, you know, it's not like a finite number. So I think,
Mhm.
yeah, I've heard several different opinions on this. And so I'm
Mhm.
curious what yours are.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, there's so many different opinions. Just take this with a grain of salt. This is just my opinion as well. I think as far as investing goes, first you want to max out your 401k. If your
Mhm.
employer is doing a match, take full advantage of that match. But some people might say, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to max out my full 401k because I can invest my money differently. Some types of 401ks, they have different limits as to what you're actually allowed to invest in. So, but if you do like the different funds or whatever is included within your 401k, I would say try to max that out. So the federal government sets out different limits for
Mhm.
how much you're allowed to contribute each year to your 401k. So,
Mhm.
once you have that maxed out, or as much money as either your match is getting with your employer, because that's free money right there, you don't want to leave that on the table, or whatever like number you're comfortable with contributing to your 401k, once you hit that, then I would say start moving over to your emergency fund. So before you're actually going to throw more money in investing, because that's how your money is going to be like tied up, that should be for the long run. Think more short term. So 3 to 6 months, you're going to want to have in like a safety net, an emergency fund, whatever you want to call it, so that you can cover yourself for any unexpected costs that might come up. Because when you are investing, a lot of times when we talk to our clients about investing, we advise them to, like I said before, think long term. Your money is going to be tied up for your retirement. So, with that being
Mhm.
said, your question was what type of investments do you like to have? We recommend our clients to have their money invested in an S&P 500 index fund. So there's a couple that I love, but
Mhm.
the one that I love the most is from Vanguard. VOO is the ticker name, and it just mimics the S&P 500, and it's just a fund that you can use for retirement.
Yeah, I am a fan of VOO too.
Good.
Yeah, I know we see each other on that one. I'm curious. So yeah, like you bring up a really good point, right? So the 401k and then the emergency fund, right? These are kind of like a short and a long term goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious, like how would you suggest people balance the priorities with those? Can you talk a little bit about how I guess, age and time obviously have a
Mm-hmm.
huge impact on that. And so I totally understand it's going to depend, right? But, there are definitely milestones I think that a lot of people experience throughout their life, such as, getting married or, their earning potential increasing over the course of their prime working years
Mm-hmm.
and having children, And so, um, I've heard, a lot of people experience a lot of that like in a pretty short time frame relative to the rest of our financial life. So
Mm-hmm.
how would you suggest kind of balancing those goals throughout those major changes?
Yeah. So I think that everyone should be thinking long term as far as like 5 years ahead. So I'm going to do a little self plug here. So, one tool that we use at the Financial Workout is our 2024 financial planner that we created, and we are currently selling on Amazon. So, basically, that provides you with the education and resources and financial and accounting background that you would need in order to set yourself up for what we preach about is financial security. So it's all about
Hmm.
being secure in your own personal finances. And
Hmm.
one of our exercises actually includes a 5 year plan. So you're going to list out everything that you hope and dream to accomplish in the next 5 years. And then from there, you take that big long term or all of those long term goals and you break them out in the following exercise into smaller, more manageable monthly goals. So
Love
that would be
it.
my recommendation for anyone trying to figure out, what they want to do in the long run is kind of visualize, picture what you want your life to be like, and then see what you need to be doing within the short term, which is anywhere from now to 12 months from now, in order
Mhm.
to kind of get yourself in a routine and set smaller goals so that hopefully you can achieve your bigger goals. And like you said,
Mhm.
life happens, things might change, and it's really fine if one day you want to be partner at a CPA firm and then the next day you're switching industries and doing something totally different. Life is
Mhm.
all about, the journey, and you're going to have surprises along the way. But
Mhm.
basically, it's a good idea to just reevaluate when something does come up or something does change. Reevaluate your goals and adjust them where needed or set new ones where needed.
Love it. I will definitely be sure to include a link to the financial planner for
Oh,
you
thank
guys.
you.
Yeah, please check that out. I scoped it out. It's really cool. I think that getting clarity about those things is so important. And I think a lot of people are so caught up in the day to day, that a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times just not even having that awareness of what the long-term goals are can lead to making decisions that maybe don't really align with the long-term goals that they set out. And so
Exactly.
I love the phrase, how do you eat an elephant, just one bite at
Hmm.
a time.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I feel really excited that you shared that. And I think it brings into a a pivot, in terms of motivation. Like I think so
Hmm.
many, and I think we see a lot of this, like with people going to the gym, at the beginning of the year, they want to get fit, they want to lose weight or whatever. And, they go and get their membership and hopefully they cancel it if they stop going and start running at the park or something.
Yes.
But really, I hope that they keep going, right? And how do you suggest, just as people do like with fitness, with their finances, how do you suggest people continue to stay motivated?
Yeah, great question. So, a lot of motivation comes from who we surround ourselves with. And you may have heard before that you're an average of the 5 people that you spend the most amount of time with, right? So, I think that if you are someone who cannot self motivate, which a lot of people aren't, I'm definitely not, then you need to really get yourself an accountability buddy. And
Mm-hmm.
so that is something that we again have over at the Financial Workout. We do this program where whenever you purchase one of our courses or products, you are then entered into our accountability group membership. So it's really just a great way for you to get surrounded with like-minded people and be connected with people that are going to motivate you and want the best for you. So that's how
Mm-hmm.
I think you should kind of like stay motivated, and that will help you keep on the path to achieving your goals is just by surrounding yourself with people that are going to help push you to where you want to be and also be excited for you to achieve those goals.
Absolutely. I love the accountability piece because it really, I think that, especially with anybody who is actively making changes in their life, maybe this isn't something that's always been second nature for them or that
Mm-hmm.
they've been practicing for a long time, somebody who might just be starting in their journey to financial independence or early retirement. Or just financial security. I think that having a group of people who um, are on a similar path, that have similar goals, that can check in, right? Ask, frequently, like how's it going? Have you
Mm-hmm.
balanced your checkbook this week? That kind of
Yeah.
a thing. And that's really amazing that you guys are cultivating that community to help people achieve their financial goals. I think that's so imperative. And I'm curious, what like resources, books, courses? I know you talked a little bit about that. So give me like the full spread of what all you guys offer. What if people come to you? What are the different avenues that they can work with you and your co-founder, your sister, and
Mm-hmm.
to learn more about their financial goal setting and how to get clear about that?
Yeah, definitely. So, like I said before, one on one group coaching or one on one coaching as well as group coaching. We also are coming out with a couple different courses. So, those will be announced soon. So, stay tuned for those. But we're really
Awesome.
going to have 4 different courses around the main 4 different aspects of financial security. So, there's going to be one about saving, there's going to be one about investing, there's going to be one about retirement and also one about expense management. And then with
Mhm.
expense management, we're going to be talking about debt consolidation and just kind of getting your debt under control, as well as formulating different plans for how you can pay off your debt.
Mhm. I
But
love
to
it.
answer your question even a little bit further, I do love different audiobooks and podcasts, and I am currently reading, well, listening to this audiobook, and it is called The 12-Week Year. Have you ever heard of it?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so it's all about just like looking at instead of doing like these yearly goals, taking
Mhm.
the goals that you were going to do in the year and breaking them down into quarters. So each quarter, the authors really count that as like a year. So
Hmm.
same type of thing. Like, let's say you want to have 10,000 followers in your year, your 2024 year. It's really about breaking that down into different quarters and saying, okay, if I want 10,000 by the year, then this quarter I'm going to try to get 2,500. And just
Mhm.
really, again, kind of like what I was mentioning before, taking your longer term goals and then breaking them down into a little bit smaller, more manageable sized goals.
Love it. Yeah, I have not heard of that book. That sounds like a really great book. I'll be sure to post a link of it as well in the description so anybody who wants to check it out themselves too can. And I so appreciate you carving out time to come on the podcast. And I'm curious, as we're kind of rounding out the episode, what personal advice would you give to somebody who's just starting their journey? Maybe this is their first exposure to some of these principles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what's the key takeaway you're hoping listeners walk away from with?
Yeah, so I think it's all about just making it fun. A lot of times people might think that, managing their finances or looking at the money in their bank account is a daunting task and they don't actually enjoy doing it. So I think that just by making it fun, maybe like pouring yourself a glass of wine, or if you have a partner or like a husband, getting them involved as well into your finances, so that you guys can maybe like talk about it over dinner, or like I said before, like make a bath or just do something fun and relaxing. Try to make it like a great time in order for
Mhm.
you to review your finances and look at your bank statements and set a budget, that sort of thing, because in the long run you're going to associate looking at your finances and managing your finances with something good and fun, and that might make, yeah, exactly, that might make you a little bit more willing to do those type of things.
Absolutely. I love that. That is a really good takeaway. And I think, yeah, I haven't done my finances in the bath before, but I think I might be trying that later this weekend. Christy, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And again, I'm going to go ahead and link everything so that people can get connected with you. I so appreciate you coming and joining me to talk about financial goal setting.
Of course, thank you so much, Jen, and I'm super super curious, what are some of your financial goals for this year?
Oh yeah. I think gosh, yeah, I want to triple my income
Oh
this
wow.
year.
Mhm.
I am looking at uh the wedding and keeping costs as
Yeah.
low as I can with that. And I'd like to be able to max out my Roth IRA for the first time.
Nice.
And really, I'd like to be able to help other people get out of debt. And I'd like to get my student loans, a lot of them
Mm,
taken care of and paid off.
yeah.
So there are specific numbers associated with all of those, but
Hmm.
those are the main areas that I'm looking at focusing on this year. And so,
Awesome.
especially with a marriage coming up,
Hmm.
I'm thinking that that is the area I want to focus on. So, yeah, thank you so much for asking.
Of course. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This has been an absolute blast. Best of luck with your wedding planning and everything. I'll be watching you on Instagram and cheering you on along the way.
Thank you. And for those listening, next week I will be hosting guest Rory McShane. He is the founder of McShane LLC, a political campaign consulting company, and data driven media. So I will see you guys next Wednesday at 10 a.m. Central Time.
Awesome. Thank you.